have the documentation. So just click continue. And we would like to ask your thumbs up if you are okay with the recording of the session. And then at the same time, we are live via Facebook. So we are also asking your consent about this live broadcast in Habi Education Lab Facebook page. So thank you very much. I see some thumbs up. So there. Thank you very much for your response. So there you go. So we are now recording this session. At the same time, we have two more requests from all of you. So since this is a highly interactive session, so later on we will have breakout sessions wherein we are requesting everyone to first listen actively to your co-participants, listen to some of the sharing of your co-participants, and second, if you are in the smaller breakout rooms, at least we would like to invite you to unmute and participate. Try to engage by unmuting your microphone. So your co-participants will hear your voices as well. So that's it for our some norms and some guidelines to guide us in this Habi Live workshop. And to introduce our team for today, so we are from Habi Education Lab. So here are your Habi Live team. So I am Luigi, and I will be your moderator for today's session. And then we also have Lacey, who will be our chat master in Zoom. So Lacey, maybe you can say hi to our participants.
Yeah, hi. Hope you had a good lunch and enjoy the session today.
Yes, thank you, Lacey. And also we have Ola, who will be joining us also here in Zoom and will be moderating the the chat messages or some messages in our Facebook Live. So Ola, is Ola here? Maybe Ola can say a few hi.
Hello, hi everyone. I can see familiar faces. I can also see new ones. So welcome to the Happy family. I hope you enjoy this workshop.
Right. Thank you, Ola. And also, for this afternoon, we are joined by very important persons coming from Amsterdam who woke up very early to join us here in this very first ever Happy Live session, which will be tackling about neurodiversity. So first, let me introduce our speakers for today. So our first speaker is Lana, who is the co-founder of Neurodiversity Education Academy. Together with Saskia, they are on the mission to bridge the gap for all neurotypes to thrive. She loves facilitating spaces for conversations around the themes of giftedness, neurodiversity, strengths-based curriculum design, and community building. So, Lana, would you like to say some few words and would like to say hi to our participants?
Hi everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. And I think one of the things that you forgot to mention, Luigi, I'm Kapampangan.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. Lana is also she's from the Philippines, but now she's based in Amsterdam. So she's a Kapampangan from Pampanga, and also she is a learning experience designer like us in Habi Education Lab. So thank you very much, Lana. And another speaker for today's Habi Lab session is Saskia, who is a learning experience designer, a media scholar, and a strengths-based life coach specializing in ADHD. She adores learning, interacting in communities of practice, and collaborating with people who have similar interests and values, especially when it comes to co creating a more neurodiversity friendly future that can lift up the next generation into solving the problems of the future together. So let's all welcome Saskia. Saskia, would like to say a few words to our co participants here?
Yes, of course. I'm very happy to be here. And I feel really refreshed because it's been very warm over here and it now just started raining. And
Oh,
I'm looking forward very much to this session.
thank you very much, Saskia. So Saskia and Lana are in Amsterdam right now. So they are joining us virtually via Zoom. So it's very nice to see that through this kind of setup, we are trying to bridge different geographic locations, different time zones, and learning together in this very important platform. So thank you very much, Saskia and Lana. You will hear more with Lana and Saskia towards our workshop. So for today, these are our workshop objectives for Wired Differently. First, we would like to introduce everyone to the concept of neurodiversity and brain strengths. Second, to provide you tips on designing for neurodiversity by providing you some discussion about what is universal design for learning and talking about Habi Education Lab's MISMO framework. And we will be also doing some conversations on bringing out learner strengths. So all of this will be focusing more on the concept of neurodiversity, bringing out our learner strengths and becoming more inclusive with all our learners. And we have three learning goals for today's Happy Live session. First is to know about fundamental concepts of neurodiversity and brain strength. So later on, we will be given a more detailed discussion of what do we mean by neurodiversity? What is about brain strengths? Second, we'll be practicing a design thinking mindset. So later on, we'll be looking at the MISMO framework and how we could use it and merge it with the concept of neurodiversity and brain strengths. And then lastly, we'll be doing some conversations about how to become confident in motivating learners to bring out their strengths. So that will be our three learning goals for today. So do you have our participants, do you have any questions or clarifications so far for this part? So that will be our learning goals and our objectives for today's Happy Live workshop. So feel free, again, invitation to everyone to engage via chat or raise your hands through the Zoom reactions if you have burning questions or something to share with our plenary session. So I think we're all good with that. So to formally begin, no, this is very usual with all our Heavy Education Lab learning experiences. We usually begin with a check-in. So a check-in for the information of those who are newcomers in Heavy Education Lab's learning experiences, we usually begin with a check-in to sense check, to feel how are our participants coming to our learning experiences or how are they coming to this session. So it's 2:14 in the afternoon on a Friday afternoon. So we're trying to sense check what is the feeling of our participants. But for today, we'll be using a very unique way of doing check-in. So we'd like to ask everyone to go to menti.com and then use this code 86 34 99 19. Lacey is also going to post it in our Zoom chat, and Ola will be posting it in our Facebook Live. So go to menti.com. So I will show you the slides. So go to menti.com and key in this code. And then if you go there, you will see, let me just navigate and then change the tab. There you go. So you can see, if you go to menti.com, you will be redirected to this page. There you go. So you could also go to, if you have your devices with you, you could also scan the QR code. So you would be redirected to this menti.com page. So again, go to menti.com and enter the code 86 34 99 or 9919. So let us see. There are 22 participants already joining us there. So 23. So again, invitation to everyone to please join. And this will be our check-in question for this afternoon. So, what is your brain strength today? So here we have different types of brain strength. So maybe I would like to invite Lana and Saskia to briefly talk about what do we mean by brain strength and what are these icons all about. Lana and Saskia, can you share with us briefly about all of this brain strength?
Thank you, AG. So this is from the Brainy app. Later on, we will share with you the links where you can download it. When we were looking at how to present neurodiversity, one of the things that we realized is the lack of language around what are our strengths. The discourse around the neurodiversity has always been about lack, disability. So what we're trying to do is reframe that by saying, okay, we need language to talk about how our brains are wired differently. And this wiring of our brains are our strengths. So this is what we came up with. We came up with 20 different brain strengths, which you would find in the Brainy app, which is a way for students to just check in with themselves and to see what are their brain strengths within the day.
So we'd like to invite all our participants to select which of this brain strength are you utilizing today or you're feeling today. So here we are seeing responses right now. So let's see which is the most dominant brain strength among our participants for today's session. So we see here, okay, 14 responses, 15. So let's wait for a few more minutes, and then I will ask Lana and Saskia to share about the top brain strength briefly. So maybe they can give us some ideas. What do we mean by curiosity, or what do we mean by empathizer? So later on, let's see which will be the top three brain strength for this afternoon session. There we see 33. Okay, I guess we definitely see that it's curiosity, which is the topmost brain strength for today. Lana, can you briefly share what do we mean by curiosity as a brain strength?
Let Saskia be the one to.
Saskia, yeah, Saskia, can you share with us what do we mean by curiosity as a brain strength?
I think we mean that you're always interested in learning new things. You're always asking questions. You're always looking into, okay, somebody explained this to me, but how exactly does it work? Wanting to know more, wanting to go deeper, also being curious about other people, wanting to learn about them. Curiosity, of course, can have many topics, but I think just being open and being willing to learn more and excited to learn more is the brain strength of curiosity.
All right. Thank you very much, Saskia. No, and I think it's very appropriate for this afternoon that most of our participants are using curiosity because maybe some of us are new to the concept of neurodiversity and brain strength. So it's really appropriate and really understandable why most of our participants are choosing curiosity. Coming in second, I think is let me see, systemizer. Yes. Saskia, can you also briefly share to us what do we mean by systemizer as a brain strength?
Yes, absolutely. I think part of learning is also that you put things into structures and you understand how they relate to each other. I think we all know about Linnaeus, who started organizing the biological life forms into
Taxonomy.
systems. So when we do that, we are using the brain strength of systemizer.
All
Also, when
right.
we are, I don't know, organizing our books so that we know where to find what books on what topic.
All right. So that's about a systemizer. So forming some systems, some norms of classifying types of knowledge,
Or a
types
structure
of
that will help
objects.
you find the right information. Yeah.
All right. That's it. That's about a systemizer. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for checking in. So we'll be keeping this chart of our brain strengths for today, and then we'll see later on how we can understand it better and how we could use these kinds of brain strengths to design learning experiences for our learners. So thank you also, Saskia and Lana, for sharing about what is this brain strength all about. And later on, we're excited to know more about the Brainy app of Neurodiversity Foundation. So let me just go back to our main screen for this session, and let me share. Oops, sorry, not that share here percent. Okay, so that is just an activity for us to begin introducing all of us in what do we mean by brain strengths. So now let's proceed to the first part of our Heavy Live workshop, wherein we'll be formally introduced to the concept of strengths for neurodiversity. So with that, let me call on Lana to present to us an introduction about strengths for neurodiversity. So Lana, take it away.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm gonna start sharing my screen in the other one. This is the power of technology using multiple screens at one time. Oh, there you go. So thank you again for having us here. Today is Neurodiversity Friday. We started this about 4 years ago to celebrate, to acknowledge, and to also provide awareness on what does neurodiversity means. And I know that for a lot of you, you might be thinking, what does neurodiversity really mean? We've started providing neurodiversity friendly schools training from last year. So me and Saskia have been providing this training, wherein our philosophy is to make the understanding of what neurodiversity be accessible, collaborative, empowering, and up to date. So the training that we've been providing under the Neurodiversity Education Academy, which is basically the training arm of the Neurodiversity Foundation, has been to provide information for teachers, parents, and students with regards to what neurodiversity is about. So before we start, I'd like to ask, have you heard of the animal school story? So if you have, just put a thumbs up. If not, I'm gonna be reading a story. It's like a, what's this? It's like one of those um what's this, when you're trying to sleep, and this can be a story that you can talk to your children about. So this is a story, and I'll be putting in the context. This animal story was written by George Ravis in the 1940s. Yet the story of the animal story is something that really is applicable even up until now. So once upon a time, the animals decided they must do something heroic to meet the problems of the new world. So they organized a school. They had adopted an activity curriculum consisting of running, climbing, swimming, and flying. To make it easier to administer the curriculum, all the animals took all the subjects. So the duck was excellent in swimming, in fact, better than his instructor. However, he made only passing grades in flying and was very poor in running. Since he was slow in running, he had to stay after school and also drop swimming in order to practice running. This was kept up until his webbed feet were badly worn and he was only average in swimming. But average was accepted in school, so nobody worried about that except the duck. The rabbit started at the top of his class in running, but had a nervous breakdown because of so much makeup work in swimming. The squirrel was excellent in climbing until he developed frustration in the flying class, where his teacher made him start from the ground up instead of the treetop down. He also developed a Charlie horse from overexertion and then got a C in climbing and D in running. The eagle was a problem child and was disciplined severely. In the climbing class, he beat all the others to the top of the tree, but insisted on using his own way to get there. At the end of the year, an abnormal eel that could swim exceedingly well and also run, climb, and fly a little had the highest average and was valedictorian. The prairie dog stayed out of school and fought the tax levy because the administration would not add digging and borrowing to the curriculum. They apprenticed their children to a badger and later joined the groundhogs and gophers to start a successful private school. So, what does this, what does this story of the animal school tell us? If you would like to share in chat, like what was the story that you can take from the animal school? I'm curious to know. And also from Luigi, Ola, and Lacey, I don't know if you've heard of the animal school or used it. I love this, this framing of how differently wired we are. And we all have our own, yes, we all have our own abilities and capabilities. Thank you, Mary Grace, for that. And that you can't measure everyone's abilities in the same way. And each animal has their own strengths and weaknesses. And this is also fascinating because it's so easy to see that in animals. How about if we apply it also with us, as individuals, as adults, as children? So this is what neurodiversity is really all about. And perhaps this is a good check-in moment as well to think of what comes to mind when you hear neurodiversity. What are the associations that you have around the word neurodiversity? I'll just put it in the chat for those who can think of what are word associations that you have. And this is from Albert Einstein. Everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. So neurodiversity is a construct, it's a concept that regards individuals with differences in brain function and behavioral traits as part of normal variation in the human population, meaning we're all diverse, neurodiverse. We have brain functioning that are different, and we have also brain functioning that that varies within the normal population. And this is where the terms neurodivergent comes in. So anyone who displays neurological and behavioral traits that are more deviant than the norm compared to the rest of the population, whereas a neurotypical individual is someone who displays neurological and behavioral traits that are closer to the norm. And this is also why the title for today is Wired Differently. We are all wired differently. There's different strengths that we bring in, different ways that we use our brain. And this is what neurodiversity is all about. The acceptance that we are all wired in different ways and that our brain functions differently. So I'd like to just go through a very quick rundown of the 8 principles of neurodiversity. And this one was written by Thomas Armstrong. If you had the, if you have the chance, please check out his book, Neurodiversity in the Classroom. He also has other books around neurodiversity and multiple intelligences that you might find very relevant in the work today. So one of the things that he emphasized on is the idea that the human brain works more like an ecosystem than a machine. So it's not what's this? It's not a hardware. It's not a software. It's a wetware, meaning the intricacies of how our brain network can be thought of as like an ecosystem. Similar to, say, for example, when we look at when we look at flowers, what are the different types of flowers that you know? You put it in the chat. What are the different flowers that you know? So in the same way, there's tulips, there's roses, there's orchids, there's jasmine. There's so many, So the human brain is similar to that. It's an ecosystem with different, with different intricacies. Another concept that Thomas Armstrong emphasized on is that human brains exist along continuums of competence. So we have different strengths, we have different abilities, and that is across a spectrum. So we can find ourselves in different parts of the spectrum depending on our strengths. And there are gradations, like I am more inclined to be a systemizer when doing certain tasks, as compared to, say, when I am when I am trying to relax, then I would put on a different strength. So our human brains exist along continuums of competence, and depending on the context in which we use it also varies in how how our competence are shown. This is fascinating. I know that I can remember the first time that Saskia and I had a conversation around this, in terms of human competence is defined by the values of the culture to which you belong. Just a very good example, dyslexia, who is, which is, based upon the social value that everyone be able to read. 150 years ago, this wasn't the case. Yeah, so we can really unpack neurodiversity along the context, the social context in which we value this, or reflecting these disabilities that we've identified as part of the values of a culture. Similarly, when we think of, say, for example, autism, it's a cultural value that suggests that, it's great to be in relationship than to be alone. So there are cultural values that we attach to our understanding of what human competency is about. And not just the cultural part, but also the historical part. So whether you are regarded as disabled or gifted depends largely on when and where you were born. So we need to also look at it in terms of how history has played a role in how we've used these terms, as disabilities, and regarded them as or use those labels depending on the historical context. So if you look at, say for example, in India, uh, people were labeled schizophrenic for those who are regarded as holy, by the local population. Those who, those who are seen as different are labeled differently also by the colonizers. So you can look at it from a historical context as well. And then the last two, the last three are focusing on what we consider to be niche construction. So niche construction means we need to adapt our practices according to the environment. So success in life is based on adapting one's brains to the needs of the surrounding environment. Yes. So to an extent, we need to be able to focus our attention on looking at how can we, how can we create an environment that meets the needs of of our own brain and the brains of those who are neurodivergent. Um, Oftentimes the activities are something like making a round peg fit in a square hole, and this is not what we want. We want to be able to make make sure that everyone thrives within the educational field, within the work environment, by making sure that we meet the needs and strengths of those who are both neurodivergent and neurotypical. So this is also including tools that you might need, like say for example, when you for a person with ADHD, finding a career with novelty would be great in terms of niche construction. And I know for today, we would be talking about universal design for learning, which is also, again, part of niche construction. What are the lifestyle choices, assistive technologies, human resources, and other life-enhancing strategies that we can use to tailor to the specific needs of a neurodiverse individual. And then last is this: positive niche construction directly modifies the brain. So it's not just about creating the social environment, because by creating the social environment, it also helps in reconstructing the brain directly. So which in turn enhances our ability to adapt to the environment. So looking at it again from a level of, it's not just about what happens to us in the environment, but it also happens to us biologically. So the more that we can create environments that are suited for our strengths, that are suited for how we're wired, then the more that we can that we can enhance our ability to adapt to the environment. So these are just the 8 principles of neurodiversity that Thomas Armstrong has emphasized on. And now I'll be giving it to Saskia, who would be talking more about one of the main areas to focus on when it comes to creating neurodiversity friendly classrooms.
Yes, because it's very much a switch that we sort of have to make, because the traditional classroom can be very focused on making up deficits. So Lana, if you would like to move the slides for me, thank you. So a strength-based approach focuses on harnessing a person's strengths, abilities, and interests in the service of their own learning. And that's very important sort of shift to make. And in order to apply that strength-based model, that means you have to identify a student's strengths, and you have to learn how to use those strengths when you're designing learning activities and setting learning goals for them. Identifying strengths is, of course, done by naming the strengths that you observe in the student, but you can also ask the student to observe what their strengths are, where they are in flow, where things are very easy for them. And then you provide differentiated and adapted learning experiences that fit with those strengths. You can really leverage strengths also as a way to tackle deficits. So A strength-based approach consists of these points, and I would be very interested to have you read through them, and maybe somebody who says one of these really stands out for me, or this is something that I'm already doing, would like to raise their hand so we can hear from them how they engage with this already. So I'll give you a little bit of time to read through the points.
Hi, Shaska. I'll share one of
Yes.
the statement that resonates with me, about building on learners' abilities within their zones of proximal and potential development. As learning experience designers, we also use that ZPD, the zones, to know what activities that we'll plan for our different learners. If this activity could be a stretch for them, or a panic for them, or if this activity will have opportunity for them to thrive. Yeah, and we use those ZPD.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's very important, and it's something that I always try to stress when I talk about this strengths-based approach, that it's not about the fact that learning cannot be hard. It's not about the fact that we only let students do what's easy for them. It's about starting from that strength and then seeing how we can stretch into learning. And I think it's very important to remember that we are all born with a growth mindset. Look at how children learn how to walk. Look at how children learn how to speak. But our motivation does not come from the idea that we have to make up for our deficits. It comes because we have a goal and the process is enjoyable. And that is what we can tap into when we look at strength with students, and we learn to work from strengths when designing and delivering a curriculum.
I think we have some sharing in the chat.
Yes, lovely.
Let's read the sharing from Karen. I'm applying this in my class. From Erica, the last one for me. From Bianca, within a university setting, I'm having a hard time imagining this. Students come into the term with the professor having prepared the entire course, and I don't know how likely it is given the LMS being used in the university. I have in mind what the professors can adjust to student strengths. How about Lenny? Valuing everyone equally and focusing on what the learner can do rather what the learner cannot do. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to respond to that question about university. I had a teacher in university who was very much working from a strength-based approach, even though I don't think she knew it. But she would set us assignments to research and write our own materials. And she would tell us at the beginning of the class year, by the time this class is done, you will be more of an expert in that specific subject that you decided to research and write a paper on than me. So she really trusted in our ability to follow our own curiosity. And I think that's a great way to work with strengths at a university level.
And we have other responses from Reg. The second one for me, as a preschool teacher, it is important for me to involve the students in planning for our activities in class. I also take into account the parents' inputs of what their kids enjoy.
Yes. And I think you will be surprised when you involve a student in solving their own struggle with a deficit in their learning. If you allow them to involve their strengths, like for instance, creative thinking, in also finding a solution, you'll be surprised what they come up with often. So the strength-based approach is not about only looking at the positive things, not a way of avoiding the truth, not a way of accommodating disruptive behavior or minimizing concerns, but it's a way to work with the strengths to solve the problem. Next slide, please, Lana. So I'm wondering, what are your strengths? What would your best friends say if you ask them what your strengths are? What would one of your colleagues say when you ask them what your strengths are? Or what would you say is one of your core strengths? So think through those questions and see what you come up with, and maybe put your reply in the chat.
I just like to emphasize that this type of exercise also, again, reinforces that our strengths are also within a continuum that people see in different ways. So getting feedback from others with regards to your strengths, and you doing your own self-assessment of your strengths, and then matching to see if those are also reflected is a very interesting experience, and also interesting exercise to try.
Yes, and we will be tapping into the answers to these questions later on. So please do take the time to think about these and find your own answers. When I work with people as a strength-based coach, I often find that they have a hard time telling their deepest strengths, because to them it comes so easy, they don't even notice it anymore. So having the input from the outside of what other people notice can be really important to really own and understand your own strengths. I'm seeing some replies in chat. Somebody's putting in their Gallup top 3. I love to work with the Gallup Strength Finder as restorative, harmony, and belief. Somebody else is sharing empathy, self-reflexivity, natural curiosity, and others. The ability to adapt, to be flexible, and to have a positive outlook. This is the slide that Lana just put up is one example of classroom activities that we share with people when we do the whole strength-based training in the Neurodiversity Friendly Schools program. And it's a way for students to begin to spot where their strengths show up, because they feel like they're in flow, time flies, they are energized, and the activity doesn't really tire them out. So you'll ask the kids in your classroom to observe for a day or for a week where in the day they have red and green moments. So that activities that are tiring and exhausting to them, that take a lot of energy, where time seems to crawl, and the activities where they are in strengths that are green moments, where time flies and they're in flow. So I'm wondering, after hearing all this, what crucial questions are you left with? What is something that you're thinking about? Okay, that's interesting, but what about this?
Yeah, they can type it in the chat, or they can unmute. Yeah.
Yes, they can unmute. And
Yes, invitation to our participants. If you have some crucial questions, maybe we can use the chat or unmute.
Hi.
Hi.
There's Ivy.
Thank you.
Yes.
Can you go back to the previous slide? And I'd like to ask more about number 3. Not that far back. Just the not that far back. Just the last one before we stopped.
so I think it was the red and green moment slide that you wanted to ask something about?
Yes.
That's fine.
So I want to ask about the extra. And number 3, affect the color of a red item by employing a strength in that context. So how do you use that in a more practical manner?
Just to give a very practical example from my own life, my kids, especially the eldest one, found math practice to be super boring. But she loved Legos and she loved being creative. And so together we made a set of Legos that had numbers written on the sides, and where she could make her own math problems and solve them by putting the right Lego blocks in the right order. And that made math practice much, much more exciting for her.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. That I think a lot of teachers do that, but we kind of don't know that we are doing it or what it's called. Thank you.
Yes, so it's about you are already unconsciously competent, but if we bring you into the realm of being consciously competent, then you can apply those sorts of strategies in different ways, in more areas, and that's why we teach these things. Often teachers already do some of these, but becoming aware of how that works and why it's so beneficial allows you to apply it more and in different places.
Thank you, Saskia.
Thank you, Ivy. Maybe we can ask one more participant if somebody. Yes,
May
Raquel.
I?
Yeah.
Oh,
Ah, sorry.
Hi.
Let's go first with Raquel's question, and then Bianca will last question again from Bianca.
Okay. My question is like my background is I coach kids with this with ADHD actually and recently I've noticed that they've had a lot of challenges working online, especially in terms of executive functions. So I'm wondering, of course, I really the strengths based approach helps them get unstuck from the building frustration. But the frustration is also, you could really feel the frustration. There are a number of kids, well, just two that I'm looking at how to support, that have stopped school because of their difficulty and how, and like, yeah. So there's a lot of questions actually that I'm processing, but I guess the major one is, given the strengths-based approach, how can teachers, or like, how can we have conversations with each other and with ourselves, like to work with that, given the challenges, the extra challenges in the online learning that we're faced right now.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think specifically for ADHD kids, not being allowed to move because you have to sit still in front of a camera is a big one. It's also a big one in the classroom, but it's especially a big one if you have online learning, because then you don't have the surroundings of the classroom that everybody, all the other kids are sitting still, so I have to sit still. That's much easier to sit down in that context than it is when you're just alone in your room in front of the camera. So looking into what makes online learning difficult for that student, but also where were they able to succeed? Looking into things like fidgets or how they can channel their hyperactivity into something so that they are able to sit still. For me personally, I have ADHD. I didn't find out until I was 40, but I was always making visual notes. So that was something I channeled my hyperactivity, physical hyperactivity, into drawing what I was hearing in the classroom, and all the information that was coming in really helped me. But I think it's very individual. So looking into the kid, like where you were not able to not pay attention 100% of the time. What is it about the moments where you were able to engage online that made the difference? And then looking into how can we make that bigger? How can we apply that in other places so that online learning is still engaging for you?
Yeah, thank you for this question, Raquel. By the way, I know your sister Jackie.
Yes. Hello.
One of the things that we need to also emphasize, that we are really in unprecedented moments right now, given Corona and what it has done globally, and also how it has shifted education. So I would say the the very first strategy that I would want to for us educators to also get into is inviting compassion in this, in this new way of doing things, in how we as teachers are accommodating different different needs, and how our students are also what's this, trudging away. So I do think that there is a need for us to really invite more compassion in today's new learning spaces, hybrid spaces, with having online and also having face to face. So aside from that, is also looking at how can we really look into niche creation, from also a level of inviting other support. So like from parents, from other teachers, from experts. Do you have mentors or coaches? So this is also one of the ways we're in. We need to expand, our view on how we address learning in the classroom, because we are still in a pandemic, and I know in the Philippines the challenges of our students are very are very big, because they're not meeting their classmates. They're not having time in school, and they have to adjust to all of these things. So I would say right now restorative practices is very crucial as well. So there are a lot of students who cannot, especially neurodivergent ones, who are not thriving at this moment, mainly because the environment is not suited for them. So how can we make niche construction as a priority by one allowing for more compassion in and two looking for resources wherein we can ask for help or even provide more information, especially to parents on how they can assist and support their children.
All
I
right.
want to
Thank you
be
very
mindful
uh,
of the time, but there's also a really interesting comment about Janica in the chat where she talks about how the term neurodiversity can be more respectful towards people who are struggling with mental health or something that could be called a mental disorder like OCD or ADHD or ASD. So, but I'll leave it to you, Luigi.
yes, thank you, Saskia. Feel free to post your questions in the Zoom chat, and we'll be collecting all of this question, and we'll be sending it to Saskia and Lana, and maybe they can directly respond to your questions via email later on after our workshop. And maybe just one last quick question from Bianca, just to wrap up this Q&A portion.
Hello, thank you for accommodating my question. I'm actually not yet a teacher. I hope to be one. I'm going to defend my master's thesis and I plan to teach in university. But the thing is with the state of university education in the Philippines right now is that um, I think uh, there needs to be an effort on an institutional level before before individual professors can try and deploy niche construction in the classroom because I've been thinking about postponing teaching right after I graduate because I'm not confident in my abilities to accommodate everybody's learning needs. um, I have a lot of friends who are teachers and a lot of friends who are also students, and they've been telling me about the difficulties that they have with online learning because the individual needs of people are not being met. And this is not even talking about neurodiversity yet. It's still talking about everybody's situation right now. So, um, I guess given that maybe an institutional level solution is long coming, I don't know when it will happen wherever I will be teaching. But is there some way for teachers, like professors, in hopefully in institutions of higher education, to try and deploy these approaches in the classroom while still fulfilling the requirements of, for example, where I hope to teach, we have to upload all of our course content requirements, exams, papers before the term starts and before we meet our students. So I'm afraid I'm afraid of not being able to meet the needs of my students, which is why I'm thinking of not teaching yet until the situation regularizes. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Bianca. And it is true, it's like a chicken and an egg. Which one do you do first, and which one do which one can work best? I do know because I do work within systems approaches as well. So this awareness around neurodiversity and application of neurodiversity friendly practices um, it is something that needs to happen at all levels, from personal, from individual to organizational to even family systems. So it really needs to um, it really needs to happen from different fronts. And unfortunately, if we look at history, if we look at culture, the last systems that all that are oftentimes the most difficult to change are the educational systems. And this is also why for us in Neurodiversity Education Academy, we've started providing this trainings as a form of awareness building. So that's the one, that's one way that we say, okay, the more awareness that we have of ourselves and our mindsets around neurodiversity is already one big, win. When we can shift the language from deficits to strengths, that's already a big win, because oftentimes the framing that is provided for us is all about deficits. What does this child lack? What does this child need? So if we can approach it from the lens of what are the strengths that this child bring into the classroom, then we open ourselves up to possibilities. And it doesn't have to happen in a what's this organizational or institutional level for that to create an impact. You're already creating impact the minute that you can acknowledge to the child, I see you and your strengths and the gifts that you bring in the classroom. Even just that acknowledgement can bring so much in the lives of children.
I absolutely agree. I would say never hesitate to start where you're at. And the fact that above you things aren't yet in order, and maybe also around a child with how the parents are handling stuff, things are not in order, should not be a reason not to start. Often, if you have to upload all your curriculum up front, you may not be able to change the what of what needs to be taught, but you can change the how. You can engage with the student and with the student's surroundings, and give them tips for how to differently engage with the materials that will be more in line with their strengths. So it's also about empowering the student themselves, and also feeding your experience back up the chain, so that the people who are making the policies and the changes know what really needs to change and what sort of support teachers and schools need in order to do this better.
All right. Thank you very much, Saskia and Lana and
Thank
Bianca, for
you.
that question. And thank you very much to everyone who gave their questions to our speakers. Keep your questions coming in our Zoom chat, and Lacey will be collecting them later on. And then rest assured that we'll be forwarding it to Saskia and Lana so they can address your queries or questions, even via email after our workshop. So let me just share my screen again to continue our workshop for this afternoon. So thank you very much, Lana and Saskia, for discussing about neurodiversity and how we can make our learning experiences, our designing our lessons become more inclusive for different neurotypes and focusing on strength. So I really appreciated that point about asking your students about what works for you, what works best for you, and from there starting from that kind of question to become more inclusive to the different kind of strengths that our learners have. So if you need further resources, further information about what Lana and Saskia have shared a while ago, you can visit this link, so bit.ly/neuro resources. And then this is a curated resources from Lana and Saskia and Neurodiversity Foundation about neurodiversity and strengths. So please check them out if you need further readings, further materials about neurodiversity and strengths. So you can check that out. Lacey and Ola will be posting it in our Zoom chat and Facebook live chat. So thank you, Lana and Saskia. We'll be hearing more from them later in the later part of our workshop, wherein we'll be opening some collaborative discussions with our participants. But now let's move on to another important acquire part for our Habi Live workshop about neurodiversity and strengths. And now we're going to share something very unique with Habi Education Lab. So coming from Lana's discussion and Saskia's sharing about bridging the gap for the different neurotypes, we are trying to give you some tips, some resources to help you design your learning experiences for neurodiverse kinds of learners. So here we are going to talk about something about how do we make our learning experiences more inclusive, given that we know that our students have different brain strengths. So just a quick check-up question probably for our participants. So can you please answer this via chat? So given your strengths, how do you learn best? So invitation to everyone to answer this question via chat. So what kind of environment, what kind of scenario do you need to learn best, given your strengths and given the discussion of Lana and Saskia? So let's see our Zoom chat if there were answers about how do you learn best? What makes learning more enjoyable and best for you? So maybe we can ask Ola. Ola, how about you? What is how do you learn best?
I was about to type my answer. I
Yes.
learn best when I listen to music.
All
I don't
right.
know why, but it just keeps the neurons working for me.
All right. Yeah, yeah. That's very interesting. No, let's read some answers in our Zoom chat. Some were learned best by doing hands-on experiences. So that's one. Erica, I learned best through interactive discussion where we generate creative output. So that's also one way. Bianca here has not an answer to the question, but thanking Lana and Saskia. So thank you for that. And Lenny, learning by listening, seeing, and doing. So a combination of three ways. Karen, audiovisual. Lacey, learning through discussion. So there, no, there's a lot of answers from our participants. So thank you very much, everyone, for your answers, and we'll be keeping all of your answers in our documentation as well. So that's it. No, that's a very brief question about asking you how do you really learn best, and judging with the answers in our Zoom chat. There's a variety of environment. There's a variety of context wherein we try to learn in our own experiences. So here, what we are going to discuss is 2 points. So first, we're going to introduce to you briefly, probably about universal design for learning. So Lana has talked about this a while ago, and probably most of us, some of the teachers here in our Habi Live learning experience this afternoon is aware of what is universal design for learning. So in a nutshell, universal design for learning talks about making learning experiences equitable and equal for all learners, depending on their context, depending on their backgrounds. So how do we make sense of this universal design for learning? So here, we're trying to share three things that we have to understand wherein we can design our learning experiences using universal design for learning. So first, we have to look at engagement. So how do you motivate learners? How do you engage your learners to become more engaged in your learning experience? Especially right now that we have different strengths. How do we make sense? How do we use these kinds of different strengths to engage and motivate our learners? Second is about representation. What are the extreme cases and alternative scenarios? So we have heard Lana and Saskia talking about different scenarios for those who have ADHD, those who have difficulty learning in a closed spaces, or those who need face-to-face interaction. So how are we going to provide representation? How are we going to consider extreme cases and alternative scenarios for different types of learners? And third, we also have to look at action and expression. So what are the options we can provide for our learners? How do we cater to different strengths, neurodiverse types of learners that we have in our classroom? And in Habi Education Lab, we have this kind of experience that we try to design learning experiences according to the context of our learners. And the fundamental lesson here in learning experience design is we have to empathize with our learners. And by empathizing, we try to build our learning experiences based on the context of those who are we designing our learning experiences. So typically, we think as teachers, as facilitators of learning, we think of our learning as a linear way. Like we see that all of our learners will experience a learning experience the same way, the way they experience it. And then the other classmates or other learners experience it the same way that they do. But this is not true because we cannot expect all learners to have the same experience because coming from Lana and Saskia's discussion, there are different ways of how we can learn. There are different environments that can affect the way we learn. So Lana has also discussed about culture affecting the way we learn. So here in Habi, we are trying to express that learning experience design looks at context and diversity. And right now that we have discussed about neurodiversity, this is also one kind of diversity that we have to consider, the different brain strengths, the different ways of learning that our learners will have. And here, by looking at different contexts, by looking at different scenarios that our learners have, we are trying to design experiences that let learning happen. Because we try to consider variety of contexts, we consider variety of strengths. And from there, we are trying to design our learning experiences. And here, we are reimagining our lesson plans, our linear workshops, linear lesson plans, and linear classes into a rich learning experiences. And by designing our learning experiences into this kind of scenario, we are trying to incorporate different learning contexts, different learning environments, different learning cultures, and different neurodiversity strengths. So by that, we are bridging the gap that we are now designing lessons and modules from designing modules and lessons to designing learning experiences that will cater to a variety of learners. And in Habi, we have this framework that we try to use whenever we design learning experiences, and we'll be trying to share it with you, the MISMO framework. So what does MISMO framework mean? So MISMO framework is an acronym. So it stands for M for the mindset, I for the intended outcomes, S for student context, M for modular steps, and O for options and alternatives. So let's quickly look at each of these letters. So let's start with letter M. So what do we look at? Mindset. So when we try to design our learning experiences, we invite all our learning experience designers to first look at the mindset of your learners. Mindset of your learners and your mindset as a learning facilitator. So first, ask yourself your philosophy. How do you teach? How do you view teaching and learning? Second, you'd also look at your principles. Are there values and guiding principles that we have to be mindful when we are designing our learning experiences? Third, we also have to look at our role. What is my role in these learning experiences? Am I a facilitator for preschooler? Am I a facilitator for professionals? And very important and related to the discussion a while ago about strengths. What do I do really well as a designer and educator? So building up on your strengths as a learning experience designer and as an educator. So here is the mindset. We look at these four things whenever we try to design our learning experiences. After mindset, we have to go to the intended outcomes. As learning experience designer, we have to look at this intended outcomes. First, we have to look at knowledge. What new concepts are they going to learn? So, what's something new that they were going to learn in this learning experience? And from there, we could also think about skills. What can they do or perform? What are the things that they're going to get from this learning experience? We also have to look at attitudes. What will they value or believe in? Are these learners living in a community of a Catholic? Are these learners living in a informal settlement? So these are the things that can affect their attitudes. Self-awareness. What will they learn about themselves? Depending on your learning context, depending on your learning environment, what kind of things they are going to learn about themselves? Not just about the content, but also learning about themselves. And lastly, about connections. Where will they relate this learning experience? If you are teaching math, how do they relate this with real life experiences? How do they relate this with their everyday life? So, here in intended outcomes, we're trying to map out and make sense what are the new things that our learners will get from our learning experience. And after intended outcomes, we also look at student context. So here, I would like to emphasize the importance of neurodiversity and the strengths that Lana and Saskia have discussed a while ago. We look at the habits. What do our learners regularly do? What is their day like? So it's going to be different for a learner with ADHD. It's gonna be different for a learner with some difficulty socializing. So it's gonna be different from one learner to another. So we have to look at the habits of our learners. At the same time, we have to look at environment. So Lana has discussed about this very extensively with the principles of neurodiversity, that the environment can affect the way we use our strength, the way we experience learning. So where will they be participating? Is it going to be a physical space? Right now, it's very difficult because it's going to be contained in a digital space. So this is also how we have to understand that different learners with different strengths can react differently in the space where learning is happening. And then related to that, obstacles. Are there barriers, technology barriers, literacy, prior knowledge that are going to be a barrier for learning experiences? So you have to understand that there are difficulties that are beyond your control and beyond the control of the learners. And then last but not the least, this is also related with the strengths, the motivation. What encourages them? What gives them the light? Probably it's very important to ask what works best for you. So that's a very good question that I got from Saskia's presentation about what works best for you. So encouraging them, what gives them the light in the learning experiences. And then after that, the next step would be designing modular steps or scaffolding the learning. When you do this, you have to look at modality. What tools or platforms are you going to use for your learning experiences? What activities are exactly the learner is going to do? Is it going to be experiential? Is it going to be interactive? Are they going to do in groups or individual? And then the flow, is it going to be an open-ended activity? Is it going to be sequential? Is it going to be structured? So flow can also differ depending on the strengths of the participants. Uh, Assessments. How will we check and communicate progress? So checking the experience, the learning experience, are they getting the learning outcomes that you intend? to achieve in your learning experiences. And then lastly, we have to look at time. Are there time constraints in terms of duration and immediacy? Is it going to be an open-ended discussion? Is it going to be continuous cycle of learning experience? Is it going to be 10 sessions, 3 sessions, or just one session? So here you can design your learning depending on the time, activities, and modality. So that's modular steps. And then last but not the least, in Habi, we also consider options and alternatives. And given that we have discussed that different learners with different strengths learn differently and we are wired differently, we have to look at access. Will there be learners who might have challenges to accessing learning experiences? We also have to put up choices. Is it possible to provide space for learners to choose and maximize learning? So, with the different brain strengths that we have, how are we going to cater different brain strengths in designing our learning experiences? And then, lastly, special needs. Does the learning experience present barriers for diverse or differently able learners? Now that we have discussed about neurodiversity and the different the wiring of our brains are different from each other, and each of us learn in a different context and scenario. How are we going to cater this kinds of diversity of our learners? So that's for options and alternatives. So all in all, in designing your learning experiences, we invite everyone to look at this MISMO or MISMO framework in designing our learning experiences. So this is just a quick discussion about MISMO framework and universal design for learning. But if you want to know more about this Habi MISMO framework and universal design for learning, we are inviting you coming soon in our Habi Plus channel, our learning experience design online course, which will be coming up very, very soon. So if you want to know more deeper about this MISMO framework and this universal design for learning, we invite you to watch out for this course offering on LX Design Online in Habi Plus. So with that, I think that's the end of our discussion about MISMO and Universal Design for Learning. So are there any questions from our participants or some reactions or something to share from our um, participants in the chat? So I will, let's see. Or Saskia and Lana, if you have something to, if you see some parallelism, some patterns of interfacing with the neurodiversity and habismism framework, maybe we could also discover something about this as well. All right. So I think there are no questions. So we're a bit over time with our schedule. So I think I will proceed with the next part because later on, Lana and Saskia will join us in a breakout room. So you will have first hand or face to face, not face to face, but smaller group interactions with Lana and Saskia later on. So now the next part will be we're having a 5 minute break because it's been a long 1 hour, at least more than 1 hour learning journey that we had about neurodiversity, MISMA framework, and UDL. So we'll be doing a 5 minute break, but this time it's a different kind of break, an interactive break. So while we are having a 5 minute break, we would like to invite everyone to walk around the room and pick an object that signifies one of your strengths. So again, when you stand up from your chairs, from your seats during the break, walk around your room, walk around your house, and pick one object that signifies one of your strengths. And then later on, we'll be looking at this. We'll be asking you to share about this object later on. So it's 3:16, and we'll see you after 5 minutes. So we'll be resuming at 3:21. So we'll see you after 5 minutes. So thank you, and have a nice break.
Hi, Luigi. There's a question from Raquel habang nag-break tayo.
Yes. Well, there's maybe we can also look at this question. So while our participants are looking for object, we'll be just answering this question from Raquel. So for intended outcomes, who decide? I wonder, I mean, for students who are neurodiverse, I think it may be influenced by the student context. So yes. So thinking it can be co-created by students and teachers. This is very important as well, especially that now that we understood that there might be differences in the way we learn and the differences in our strengths. So um, in the mismo framework, it should be a shared endeavor between the teacher and the students, like what Raquel has expressed here in the chat. So for you to become more oriented with the context of your students, and if for you to become more inclusive in designing your learning experiences, I think it's a best practice as well. that the creation of the internet outcome would be a co-creation, a shared endeavor between the students and the teachers. So thanks for that comment and question, Rebecca. So I guess so. Let's give our participants some time to take a break and get your one object that represents your strength. So thank you. We'll see you in a bit. Again, we are flashing this screen about the link for the resources for neurodiversity. So go to bit.ly/neuroresources. You would have access to the materials curated by Saskia and Lana about neurodiversity. So if you want to also discover more about the Neurodiversity Foundation and then the Neurodiversity Academy, this is also the perfect resource that you could explore so you would know how to connect with Lana and Saskia further after this workshop. Also, Lana is, I saw it in the chat that Lana is inviting everyone, to those who want to connect to her LinkedIn account. So you could just click Lana's LinkedIn account in the Zoom chat. So there, so Lana has pasted there her LinkedIn account, so you would be connected with her, and then check these curated resources from Neurodiversity Foundation. So I think it's almost done. So invitation for everyone to come back to our Zoom room, to our plenary hall. So invitation. If you're back, can you please type here or back in the chat so we would know that majority of us are here or back. So there, thank you very much. So we see that most of our participants are here now. So thank you very much for your response. So let me just put again the screen. So are you ready with the objects that you have to get? That one thing that represents your strength. So we'll be using that as a start of activity for the next part of our session, which will be focusing on the collaborative discussion or breakout sessions for our the half part of our workshop. So there. So okay. So with that, I will be turn over in this the moderation of the session to Saskia and Lana to facilitate the second half of our Habi Live workshop. So Lana and Saskia.
Yeah, so we would be going into breakout rooms. So I don't, Lacey is working its magic for breakout rooms, I suppose. And yeah, this is the question that we would like to prompt you in the breakout rooms. How might we motivate students to work with their strengths in the classroom? So again, going to menti.com and using this code. And Lacey, just give
Yes.
a signal when we're ready. So we'll have 10 minutes of breakout. So when you introduce yourself, introduce also your object, and then after introducing your object, to work within the question of how might we motivate students to work with their strengths in the classroom. So we can also put in the Menti code in the chat. That will be great. So Lacey, ready to send them off to Zoom either?
Yes, opening the rooms now.
See you after 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So I'm noticing the Mentimeter is still stuck on the brain strengths.
Hi, Luigi, kindly
There.
check.
Yeah, I already moved the slides to the next part. So now you can access the slide for the question. And then Lacey is now also um, organizing the breakout rooms. And there's also a group who will be remaining in the plenary hall. So this is the space wherein they will be doing their breakout session. So we'll be also listening to them here in the Zoom room and also in the Facebook Live. So we have special group of teachers and learning experience designer who will be remaining in the plenary room to discuss this breakout room questions.
Yeah. Ola, we are also staying here, right, in the plenary.
Yes, we're staying here.
Oh, I assigned you to rooms, but you can hop into the various rooms. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. So are these the teachers staying in the plenary?
Yes, there are 5 participants who will be staying here in the plenary. So we have Rax, we have Joseph, Jenica, Karen, and Sandy. Hi, everyone.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, I can start our discussion here in the plenary room.
Yeah. If you have questions or other insights that you have, please, yeah, please do share. Just unmute yourself.
Do we start with introducing ourselves?
Yeah, yes. Is it how do you pronounce your name?
Jenica or Jen if it's easier to remember. Introduce ourselves with the item, right?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jen. I chose my pen, my fountain pen, um, because my top three strengths are restorative, harmony, belief. Let's include my last two, connectedness and intellection. And whenever I need to solve something or whenever I need to connect like different ideas or whenever I feel like I'm thinking a lot, I write it down using a pen. So that's why I chose this one. Okay, I'm tagging Teacher Rax.
Thanks, Jen. Ako, I got my plant. Well, it's a, it's like a pothos plant. Ayan. So, like, it's a vine. Ayan. So, my strength naman, my top three is strategic, activator, and connectedness. So, I feel like I'm a vine. Like, when I cut, even if I cut things, I keep on growing. Sometimes it's like so wild, I need to cut it down. Yeah. So, my strength is when I learn, I suppose like I have a buying strength. I have a lot of ideas and like I always have like something na ano growing in me. Yeah, that's it. So if someone feels like they need an idea or like a spark, I can easily like help them through it. That's it. So I'm tagging Sandy.
So hi. So I got this. I have a figurine of like a elephant. So I thought my strength would be connectedness and reliable like an elephant. So yeah. I'll tag Paula.
For me, it's this water bottle because my strength is really going with the flow. So it's just riding the waves. That's my strength. I will tag Lacey.
I was busy in the chat box, but the thing nearest to me is actually my water, also water bottle. Representing the water as being versatile and energy giving. So one of my strengths is on positivity. So yeah, channeling positivity when I'm dealing with different kinds of people and motivating learners also. How about Luigi?
Thank you, Lace. For me, I picked this pen because I think that as a teacher, I always need to document my learning so that I can share it later on with my students. So I think that's a strength, like the learner in me. That's something I am really using as a teacher and as a learning experience designer. So maybe I can pass it. Who else is not yet answering?
I think Karen hasn't
Karen?
answered yet,
Yeah.
and Joseph.
What's your object, Karen?
Mine is a cable wire. It's the closest thing, and I think my strength is patience. As a first grade teacher and a mother of two kids below 5 years old, you need to have patience. Mahaba yung pasensya. That's it. And tapping Sir Joseph.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. So I'm Joseph and my symbol or my item is this. It's an extension cord. I haven't done strengths finder yet, so I'm not very sure kung ano yung mga strengths ko, but what I tend to do is that I tend to consume a lot of information. So input dito and then I try whenever possible to distribute that to as many opportunities as I can. So ito yung symbol na I don't know what's that called in terms of strengths, but well, that's my tendency. Thank you. Anyone else? Who else? Alto si Dana.
Ah, thank you. So mine is a rock, like the stability and the groundedness, and also the somehow the resilience that it represents. So we have less than 3 minutes. I'm curious, like maybe we can, we can just put it in the chat, or if you're in Menti, to say what have you come up with? How do you motivate students to work with their strengths in the classroom?
I can share, which I will also enter in Menti.
What
Uh,
one of okay, go, Jen.
oh, okay. I'm not sure if it's my internet.
Yeah,
In
you can go.
our
I think a bit.
in our organization, or how do I say it, education social enterprise, we during at the start of our classes, we ask. So we have a character, attitude, mindset curriculum, where we teach kids grit, resilience, compassion, etc. And at the start of class, particularly for math and English, we we show the different character traits and attitudes, and then we ask them um, what they think they need to work on, and how they can do it. And I think that's a way of motivating them in terms of not, I guess, not assigning them what they need to work on. So they already have the self-awareness that, oh, um, this is my strength. I would want to work on this, but I also want to practice this during class. I'm not sure if that helps.
Yeah, thank you for that. Self-choice is definitely something that's crucial. How are we promoting that ability of students to choose within the classroom setting? I don't know if in your school settings you apply multiple intelligences. I would say this is one of the strategies that I have seen work well when it comes to um, emphasizing and also highlighting the strengths of individuals. I particularly helped set up a school in Indonesia, which is focused on which is equal right is the name of the school, as multiple intelligences as a framework within the school setting.
Yeah, and some of our participants will be going back to the plenary now. Yeah.
One more. Who else have an idea on
Yeah.
how do they motivate
So
students?
fair.
Yeah. Invitation to one more sharer before
See,
we let everyone to come back. Yes, Raquel?
I can share quickly. But this is not actually a practice that I do with students per se, but actually with teachers and with participants. I got it from actually another facilitator, but she actually got it from her colleague that had a daughter that studied in a school. So it's from a teacher. Okay.
All
So
right.
a teacher did a community pantry thing. Now, in the community pantry movement, you get what you need. Get what you need, but also contribute what you can. So it's kind of like that. I was thinking, what about the Strengths Community Pantry to have a conversation? What strength can you contribute to our class or even to this discussion? But what strength do you need from others that maybe could help you also? So I think that would be great. Like I can imagine people who are having a hard time listening can be visual note takers, and that would
Mhm.
be great. It was really interesting, that discussion. It like sparked a lot of ideas. Yeah. So thank you.
And thank you for that. And this also plays a part in dividing students in groups. Yeah, so making it intentional to look at what are the strengths of the people that are in the group.
Everyone is
Oh,
back here in the plenary. Welcome back.
Yes. Welcome back, everyone. So maybe Lana
Okay.
and Saskia can continue the discussion together with the rest of the participants. Mm.
yeah. Katya, are there patterns that you're seeing in Mentimeter? Yeah.
Saskia. Here.
I haven't checked the Mentimeter
Yeah.
yet, Lana. I'll have to log into my phone.
Mhm. Yeah, I love the strengths community pantry that Raquel just shared with us. Yeah, this is really around how can we make it more visible, the strengths that are in the classroom. um, One of the things that you can also think about is helping students notice the strengths when they're doing it or after they've done an exercise of what strengths did you use in doing this particular exercise or in doing this activity. So it's really a matter of looking at how can we provide more awareness to their strengths in the classroom setting. The choice board, we were just talking about that, how can we create environments where choices are available. Saskia, anything that comes up for
The
you?
safe space, I think we already talked about a lot, and that's especially important, I think, especially for neurodiverse students who have these spiky profiles when they're really good at one thing and they're not as good at something else. Pointing out the stuff that they're good at and letting them celebrate that and leverage it in other situations can be so important. And that also gives a feeling of safety and of being seen. But I think, Lana, in the chat, you also recommended some further resources to people for this, because that's a really important issue.
Helping others, definitely. That's one way also. Providing mentoring opportunities. So one of the topics in the neurodiversity friendly schools program is about support. So how do we allow for support not just from adults but also from students? How do you create that, build that in within the learning structure?
Yeah, and I think that's a strategy you can almost use anywhere, where if you've spotted a student's strengths, give them opportunities to help others based on their strengths. That is something really empowering, usually.
Well, thank you for all this. Ola, will they have access to this, or will they be given a harvesting of the ideas that they've shared here?
Maybe
Definitely, yes.
we can
We link
share.
the live results in the chat box,
Yeah.
so you can check it out there. And then you can also play the Facebook Live video if you want to go back.
Yes. So you could go back to the answers of your co-participants. So maybe we can use some of their strategies and employ it in our own learning experiences in our own classrooms. So there. Let
Thank
me just
you.
go back to the slides so that Lana can proceed with the next part.
So this is Saskia, one of our favorite activities.
Yes,
Go for
absolutely.
it.
Well, this is what we call a compliment shower or a strength shower, where we would like to hear, when you were in the breakout room and you heard others' contribution, what stuck out about them? What did you really find wonderful or interesting or engaging about your co-participants' answers? So please put your answers in the chat, or alternatively raise your hand so that Luigi can call on you to contribute.
Yes, invitation as well. If you want to share, raise your hand and unmute so we could recognize you. What did you like about your co-participants' answer during the breakout room? So we're excited to hear what did you like best from your co-participants' answers. So invitation for us to utilize that strengths-based approach in this workshop. So let's see.
So this is also a strategy that you can have at the end of the class, providing a strength shower for your students.
It's also a really nice starter to do a variation on this at the beginning of a class year after the first day, to ask students to put a paper on each other's backs and then get all the classmates to write something, a strength on their back. And then afterwards they get to take off the paper and read out loud what other people have said about them in terms of noticing their strengths.
Let's see. Are there anyone who would like to share? So invitation for us to think about our discussions and then share something. We're very excited to hear the answers of those who are in the breakout rooms because we weren't able to hear them. So this is the time where we can share what have you discussed in your breakout room. So feel free. Don't be don't be shy and feel free to
Yes. We have some in the chat room. So maybe one of you can
yeah,
unmute and share. So I can see Cholo, I can see Jenica. Maybe
yeah,
you can
yeah,
share.
yeah. Invitation for those who are sharing in the chat to unmute. So if not, let's see.
I
The
can I can read some out loud, perhaps, Luigi, while somebody gets the courage to raise their hand. So
yeah,
Bina
sure.
writes, to facilitate an environment where students can learn from each other rather than depending on a single authority figure for learning. And Raquel wrote, I think it's powerful to include self-awareness in the attended outcomes, part of MISMO. It was helpful to be reminded also to help engage students in reflecting on their own strengths in revisiting learning outcomes. Cholo writes, creating a safe space for students and building rapport, a great insight from Erica. It really highlights the importance of the relationship and the environment. Lily writes, one of the participants said teachers should be flexible and should adjust for the needs of students, to which I agree. Rachel is also talking about the safe environment, that it's important for nurturing a strength. Karen emphasizes flexibility in teaching. Lenny is very much on the social level, reflecting on how our group mates were friendly, supportive, and good listeners. Somebody is recommending a strategy, the Strength Community Pantry from Teacher Rex. Jenica, I would love to hear more about that. Would you like to unmute and share a bit about that?
Oh,
Jenica.
Teacher Rax just shared it earlier before everyone came back to the plenary. Um, it's really about offering your strengths to other people and um, getting strengths from other people that can help you. So, it's how do you say it? Like a comparison of our community pantries here in the Philippines, where we get um, food that we need, but also give what we can to other people.
Lovely. I think Lana is very involved with that. She organizes things like that in Amsterdam and Almere every year.
Right. Is there anyone else who would like to share? Come on, share the strengths or what is something that you liked with the discussion of your co-participants, and by discussing it, maybe some of us can try it out in our learning experiences in designing our lessons in our classrooms. So feel free to share. I think there's also another one from Joshua here in the chat. So most of them are engaging in the chat. So let's read them. Creating a mistake-friendly environment in the classroom with diverse learning preferences and abilities. And then Jenica also shared that I bought this handbook on strengths-based mentoring the youth. I learned about strengths spotting diary. So that's something new we also shared by Jenica. So if you
Yeah.
could also share the title of the book, Jenica, in the chat, that will be very helpful for us as well.
Uh, I'll look it up. I don't remember, but basically the strength spotting diary is um, teaching the kids or the youth how to identify their own strengths such that it doesn't really come from so that they have a language to work with, and then throughout the day they write down when they were able to practice the strength, when they were not able to practice it, and it talks a lot about learned behaviors, unrealized strengths, realized strengths, etc.
All right, thank you, Jenica, for that strength spotting diary. It's something we could also try with our classes as well. So, is there anyone else who would like to share before we end this strength shower portion of our Heavy Life workshop? So maybe Lana and Saskia could also can say some few words before we wrap this up, this part of our workshop.
Yeah, in the breakout room, I joined somebody was working with university professors who And I suggested to her that she use a strategy where she asks for best practices rather than tell the university professors how to teach. But she's already doing that. So it was useless advice because she's already working from that approach and tapping into that strength.
Mm. So thank you for having us, Habi, Ola, Luigi, Lacey. It's a pleasure for us to celebrate Neurodiversity Pride Day. I was actually telling Saskia from last year already that I would really want to work more closely to of course to my people. So that having this workshop is really a dream for me as well to contribute. We did start the neurodiversity friendly schools training program from last year, wherein we had participants coming in from a school in Angeles and also a school in Indonesia. So there will be another call out for teachers who would like to go through the program, which we will be starting in September. So Ola, I'll be sharing the details with you once we have it out in the website. And yeah, for teachers who want to know more about what we do in the Neurodiversity Education Academy, please reach out to us. Check out the Neurodiversity Education Academy.org. And there are a lot of resources that are there, as well as two courses, one on strengths based, which Saskia has created, and also another one on executive functioning that you can find for free that you can avail of in the platform. And with that, yes, thank you again for having us.
Thank you very much, Lana and Saskia. So, again, for if you would need more information about Neurodiversity Foundation and about resources about Neurodiversity for Strengths and the courses and the training program that Lana have shared, we'll be sending you the link as well in the chat so you can consult them. And then later on, we'll be showing the contact details of Lana and Saskia in the Neurodiversity Foundation. So you could look at their website and then their contact details. But now, before we formally close our Havi Live
Oh,
workshop, we would like to.
Luigi, there's also for those who want to still join after this, immediately after this, 10 o'clock my time, in a few minutes, I'll be giving a workshop on harnessing growth mindset in the classroom.
Yeah, so that's another workshop that Lana will be joining later on because today it's a universal Pride Day, Neurodiversity Pride Day, and Lana and Saskia and their Neurodiversity Foundation has lined up a lot of activities worldwide. So invitation for you to join later on. We'll be posting the details in the Zoom chat as well with this workshop. I think with Indonesia, in Indonesia. So it will be the next workshop that Lana will be going to after this Habi live workshop. So with that, as a way of closing our Habi live workshop on neurodiversity, we'd like to invite everyone to think about a stretch goal. So think of a plan for the next 90 days that you will be trying out. So in terms of applying the things that you have learned about neurodiversity and the strengths-based approach, so what are the things that what are the plans or stretch goal that you are going to try to execute for the next 90 days? So that's a goal, an activity that we would like to give to you by the end of this Happy Live workshop. So also, since we are in the end, we would like to love to hear feedback from you. So invitation for all our participants to go to this link bit.ly/HaviLive feedback. So we would love to hear your feedback about the Havi Live workshop, the overall experience of this Havi Live workshop on neurodiversity. And after you answer the feedback form, there will be a link that will be given to you wherein you can answer if you want a certificate of participation. So if after you answer the feedback form, we will be giving you the link and then accomplish the link, and then the certificate will be delivered to your email afterwards, immediately after you answer the feedback form and the Google form for the certificate. So again, bit.ly/HaviLiveFeedback. So also the link is in our chat, Zoom chat box and in the Facebook Live. And then, so just to quickly wrap up this overall Heavy Live experience that we had, if we started with a check-in during the beginning, we'll be ending with a check-out. So the check-out will be, what can you do tomorrow to start practicing strengths-based learning and teaching? So what can you do after this workshop, or what can you do tomorrow to start practicing everything that we have learned today about neurodiversity and strengths-based approach to learning and teaching. So invitation to everyone to type it in the Zoom chat, and then we'll briefly look at your answers. We're excited to know, how are you going to apply? What's your next step after this Habi Live workshop on neurodiversity and strengths? So let's see. For me, I would like to share, while we're waiting for our participants to share their answers. As a university instructor as well, I'm teaching with a diverse kind of students in a different age group, wherein there's a lot of expectation about maturity, and their capacity to learn. I think the community pantry, the strengths-based community pantry, is very much important, because at this point that there's difficulty in remote learning, it's nice to build up on our strengths. It's nice to build up on what we can deliver best, so that we could be motivated to learn. So let me just quickly check the Zoom chat of the answers of our participants. They were going to download the Brainy app and
Luigi,
read more.
sorry, can I interrupt you really
Yes,
quickly
yes.
because Lana has to go. Can we take
Uh,
a photo before
yes,
she
yes,
leaves?
yes.
Because
Oh,
she's preparing
sorry.
for the next event.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just stop share, and then
Yes,
invitation for
please.
everyone to open your cameras and then show us your beautiful faces, so we can have a quick snapshot of group photo in the time of pandemic and remote learning. So we just have to open our cameras in our Zoom, and then invitation to everyone to wear your best smiles, and then Lacey will be
Yes, wag mo na
capturing.
chat so that hindi magpa-pop
So
yung ano.
yes, so let's refrain from chatting muna, and then let's
Okay,
wait for
ready?
Lacey's instructions.
Smile. 1, 2, 3. One more, kasi may isa pang page.
Yes, another one.
Smile lang tayo. 1, 2, 3. Nice smile. Thank
All
you,
right. Thank you very
Lana.
much.
Thank you,
Thank you very much,
everyone.
Thank
Lana
you,
and
Lana.
Jumping
Saskia.
out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So
Bye.
we'll see you in our next Happy Live offering and next learning experiences with Happy. So thank you very much and have a good day. Thank you. Keep safe,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank
See you on
you.
Thank
checkout.
you,
Stay
Habi. Thank you, Miss
safe.
Saskia.
Invitation
And
to
Mom.
continue answering the checkout, and we will be collecting your answers as well and share it with Saskia and Lana afterwards. So
Yes,
thank
and
you, everyone.
Lana in her next
Bye
workshop. So
bye.
also
Bye,
very
Saskia.
Good
bye.
luck.
Lana, thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you, everyone.
we will
Thanks,
also be
everyone.
sharing the links with you. Yung
Yes,
link to the
and
next workshop. Yeah.
answer the feedback form, and the certificates will be delivered as well. Thank you. Yes, we're done with the live stream. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your checkout answers. We'll read this after.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. We can't do music because it's copyright.